Welcome, girls, to this discussion about Rene Descartes. We're looking at his first, second and sixth meditations, and this is basically a summary of the material we've been over in class. There's plenty of time for you to stop, pause, take notes from the notes I've given, but I'm going to try and use this little video to discuss some of the ideas, go back over some of the ideas that we mentioned in class, but really it is a summary. It serves as effectively a video of a PowerPoint. So you've got the PowerPoint, you can pause, you can take your own notes, and that's really, really important. I've used a few more images this time. I want to really push you to make your own, particularly flashcards. Use flashcards, use single images associated with key ideas. I haven't done that exactly with this, but I've tried to give you a sense of how you might do that, or whatever, what sort of images you might use. Be happy to use a little bit of humour. Whatever is going to get the key ideas to stick in your head. Okay, let's get going. Now you can obviously read this, so I'll just skip over large sections of writing, let you know what's there. This is just general background to what his meditations are. So here we go. His method, Descartes' method. He exists at a time when most people get their knowledge through authority. That would have been the authority of the church or the authority of the scholastics. If you're not certain about that, you can look up the term scholasticism and the scholastics. It's, as it implies, school. These were the academics of the time, drawing most of their knowledge from Aristotle. Descartes is himself religious. He believes in God. Okay, there is a tendency amongst people who don't really know Descartes that well to think that he was the founder of atheism, and I doubt things. I'm going to be skeptical and reject what was the current belief, and that's not the case. He sets out to find that which is certain and indubitable. There is the key phrase, certain and indubitable. Okay, all other opinions or other knowledge he will regard as opinions that may or may not be false. And we've got to keep stressing as we go through, that doesn't mean he doesn't believe in these things. It just means that that knowledge does not satisfy the criteria of being certain and indubitable, undoubtable. To investigate this, he employs a method which is called radical skepticism, hyperbolic doubt, hyperbolic skepticism, Cartesian skepticism, methodological skepticism. Across all the different textbooks you'll look at, all those words mean the same thing. Basically, his method of investigation is to doubt what he thinks. So instead of saying, what have I been told by the authority, I'll accept that, then I'll put this bit onto this bit and this bit on this. He goes, what do I think I know? And then doubt it. Is there a reason why I should doubt it? And if there's a reason why I should doubt it, then we'll put that aside. I really want to stress that this term skepticism should be in your head. You should be clear between the distinction between skepticism and incredulity. Incredulity. Being incredulous. Oh dear, there's my cat on the door. Incredulous, the state of being unwilling or unable to believe in something. That's not what he is saying. He's just saying, I have a reason to doubt it. Doesn't mean I don't believe in this thing. I just have a reason to doubt it. Descartes says, I doubt that. What can I know that is certain and indubitable? This is his starting point. So we have a philosopher employing doubt as his method to find a type of knowledge that is certain and indubitable, and it may not exist. He doesn't even know if it will exist when he starts out. He's hoping to find a type of knowledge which was certain and indubitable, which will then be the basis from upon which he can build all other knowledge. It will be the foundation, and for this reason it gets called foundationalism. Descartes is employing thinking about thinking. He's a rationalist. He believes that the human reason is capable of understanding the world. In this, he is actually following his belief in the Bible. So in the Bible it says that man is created in the image of God. So from the rationalist point of view, man has the ability to understand because God has the ability to understand. I'll say that again. There are some people who would think God has the ability to understand and we should just accept what we're told without being able to understand it. We are somehow, we are the servants, the slaves to a higher power God, and we just do what we're told. But the Judaic Christian God includes the idea that we are made in the image of God. And it is this that leads rationalists, and it leads Descartes as sort of founder of modern rationalism, to accept reason as his epistemology, his method of knowing. So he then is using reason, he is using thinking, and he is, in this case, thinking about thinking. So if I wanted to understand how a tree worked, I might think about trees. If I wanted to understand how a game of football worked, I might think about the rules of football. If I wanted to understand how the human body works, I might look at it, pull it apart, and think about how all the bits fit together. If I want to understand how thinking works, I have to think about thinking. And that's actually a really tricky one because think of it this way. To understand, say, how the human body works, we would pull it apart and we would look at it. But it is harder to look at the eye. How does sight work? Now we might say, oh, we can look at someone else's eye. We can pull their eye out, we can cut it open, we can look at it. But it becomes harder when you imagine trying to understand how your sight works, and you're going to try and understand it by looking at your sight. And this, of course, is very tricky. How do you look at the thing that you are looking with? And so that's kind of a physical metaphor of what Descartes is attempting to do. He's trying to think about thought through the process of thinking. Does his thinking affect the thinking about thinking? Anyway, Descartes engages in what we call introspection, thinking about thinking. This has been criticised for falling prone to what's called the homunculus fallacy. Homunculus means homo as in man, small man fallacy. It is the idea that we have metaphorically, a small man watching how the brain works to work out how the brain works. But then that small man, who is part of our brain, to understand that part of the brain, we need another small man to look at how it is working. But to understand that other small man, which is also part of our brain, we would need another small man to understand that. And that would go on into what's called an infinite regress. So in the Meditations, Descartes starts out and he sits down by a warm fire and he gets out a book, some paper and a quill to start writing his thoughts down, his thoughts about thinking. And he goes, well, look, what I know for sure straight away, truth of which is manifestly impossible to doubt, as for example, that I am sitting in this place. So he figures it's pretty much impossible to doubt that he's seated by the fire, clothed in a winter dressing gown, and I hold in my hands this piece of paper. So Descartes starts out his investigation by realising that there have been things that he has believed in which turned out to be false. He asks what he can believe in, and he initially feels that he could believe that he's sitting at his writing desk or by his fire. And he knows this through empiricism. However, he immediately realises that he has been deceived in the past by empiricism. An example would be depth perception. If you look at something far away, it looks smaller than it actually is. It's as simple as that. That is a deception. If you look at a straw, if you put a straw in a glass of water, you'll see the straw appear to bend. That is a deception. So he thinks to himself, okay, maybe I can't trust empiricism. But then part of him goes, look, surely I know I am sitting here at my desk by my fire with my quill and my bit of paper. I know that and I would be mad to think otherwise. And then there's a little bit in the text which every year catches out students. The next paragraph he starts out and he goes, oh, brilliant reasoning. And a lot of my students have in the past said, oh, he thinks that what he's done is legitimately brilliant reasoning. No, he's being sarcastic to himself. Hear it like this. Surely I know that I'm sitting here at my desk. I would have to be mad to think otherwise. Whoa. Brilliant reasoning, Descartes. Duk, 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 duk. Duh. That's exactly what a madman would say. Okay? A madman would not think that they are mad. So for me to say I'd have to be mad to think otherwise, how do I know I'm not mad? I might be mad. A madman wouldn't say, oh, that will be wrong because I am mad. A madman does not think they're mad. This is simply called the madman argument. It is an argument, and it's as simple as this. For him to say that he would have to be mad to doubt what he sees around him, therefore it must be indubitable, is ludicrous because it is exactly what a madman would say. So therefore, he cannot not doubt what is around him based on this idea. You'll need to go through that yourself. Very rarely have I ever seen in an exam where you've been asked to unpack and explain the madman argument, but which is really just sort of saying what it is. But you can use it to say it is one of the reasons that he uses to dismiss empiricism. That is the key. Every so often you'll get a straight up question, how does Descartes dismiss empiricism? Well, the first part of it is he dismisses it through the madman argument. If it was 1 or 2 mark question, you don't need to do much more than just say that. You don't need to explain what the madman argument is. But you should be able to. That's my point. You should be ready to. The second argument that goes towards dismissing empiricism, and keep in mind, if you've forgotten, empiricism is knowledge through the senses. His next argument is called the argument from dreaming. He basically realises could I be mad, and would I say I'm mad? Well, if I was mad, I wouldn't say I'm mad. I could be mad. This could all be an illusion. Then the next question is, have I ever had illusions, sensory illusions before? Have I ever seen something that turned out not to be real? Have I ever experienced something that wasn't real? Yes, obviously, the first thing that pops into your mind is the case of dreams. Dreams or drug-induced illusions. So this just realizes, it's as simple as saying, empirical data or empiricism is doubtable. That would be the conclusion. Let's run through it. Premise one, I have had dreams where I thought I saw something, and this turned out to be false. Therefore, it is possible that what I think I see now is false. Therefore, empiricism is doubtable. That's pretty much it. That was 3 steps. With all of these types of arguments, it really is important that you take the time to put them in your own language. You'll find lots of examples in textbooks. We'll probably write some up on the board, but it's about you having ownership and being able to write them down. He does sort of stop and go, look, fair enough, maybe this hand, which I've had dreams where I've seen hands, so maybe this particular hand is a dream. But for me to have a dream about a hand, I had to have the idea of a hand in my head. Where did that idea come from? And that's his first sort of step towards going towards a priori knowledge. Now, remember, a posteriori knowledge, post, coming afterwards, is knowledge we get through the senses. This is any knowledge that is empirical data. Sight, smell, hearing, touch, taste. A priori knowledge, prior, is knowledge that we theoretically had prior to experiencing the thing. For example, a square. That's we've been through in class before, and some of you choose not to accept, but you've never seen a square. You've never seen a square. You have an idea of what a square is, but where did you get that idea? You did not get it from sight, because a square is a perfect object. By definition, all sides equal length, but because anything that is physically drawn is made of atoms, and those atoms are moving, at no time are all the sides perfectly equal. You could say that could describe a square with the mathematical formula for a square, but you haven't seen the physical object. You've seen things that remind you of squares. And of course, all of this goes back to Plato's theory of forms and Plato's cave, which we've looked at other times. So, after having dismissed empiricism, because it could be a dream, he wonders, what about, I may be dreaming this particular hand, but maybe there's more general idea of a hand. And then he takes that bit further and goes, look, maybe not even a hand, but for me to experience a hand, I have to be experiencing shape and colour and size and extension. So maybe all of those more universal ideas are real. Then he asks, where do we get these universal ideas? From Plato's point of view, the universals come from Plato's forms, the realm of the forms. From Descartes' point of view, they will come from God. And here's where it gets tricky for Descartes. He believes in God, but his method so far is to go, what am I up to? Is there any reason to doubt it? Okay, so he said, first of all, there's sensory data, Is there any reason to doubt it? Yes, dreams. Right. What about universals? Where do they come from? God. Is there any reason to doubt God? Well, his belief is going to say, no, I can't doubt God because God is by definition perfectly good. But he has a problem because he's just admitted that he has been deceived through sensory data, through dreams. So if it is possible that he was deceived, is it possible that God could deceive him? Not according to his definition of God, but it is possible that whatever put the universals in his head has deceived him. It's a possibility. To get around this issue about feeling like he's blaspheming by doubting God, he suggests that maybe, is it possible that this information was put into his head by a demon? Well, he doesn't really believe in some sort of crazy little demon doing this, but he says, yeah, it's possible. Could it be possible that this demon is putting into my head false information? Yes, it's possible. Could it be possible that a square is not a square? Well, if the demon was malicious, if the demon was a deceiver, then he will have been deceived, but he would not know because his only knowledge of this stuff comes from the demon. If the source of his universal knowledge is something that deceives, you wouldn't know by definition. So it is possible that there is a malicious demon. And this is called the malicious demon argument, or the malicious deceiver, or the demon deceiver argument. You read about it in a whole range of different ways. So Descartes reasons from his idea of universals, derives from an omnipotent God. Let's keep in mind that Descartes is not claiming that there is a real demon. Rather, there is the possibility that his universal knowledge, a priori knowledge, comes from something that is deceiving him. And at that moment he goes, I can doubt the senses, I can doubt a posteriori knowledge, I can doubt a priori knowledge. What other sorts of knowledge have I got? None. And that's that moment when Descartes realizes that he knows nothing. And that's the end of book 1. A bit of a sad sort of, and you've got to, when you're making a book, you can't have a victorious ending. You've got to have a sort of a dark moment so that you get a comeback in the second part. So there we have poor old Descartes, or in this case Jon Snow, for the Game of Thrones girls, realizing that he knows nothing.